Ever wonder how much cash is in Circa Sports owner Derek Stevens' wallet? $5,000, $10,000, $100,000. Circa Sports is giving you the chance to win a piece of Derek's wallet.
Whose idea was this?
Win your share of $100,000. Simply bet $100 and earn 1 share. Bet $500 and earn 2 shares. Visit circasports.com for details.
I'm going to need a bigger wallet.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the 2 biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. GameDay Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners, best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. It is Legends and Listeners on this lovely Iowa Thursday from the Channel Seed Studios. Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register here. Scott Dochterman of The Athletic over there. We are joined together, united. Even though we work for separate entities, we are united here on Iowa Everywhere, Scott. It's been a lot of fun for about 2.5 years. We are presented, as always, by GameDay Men's Health, which I'm repping with my shirt today, proudly.
Nice.
Another wild week, Scott, in the Big Ten Conference. 8 days ago when we did our last show, Sharon Moore was still the coach of the Michigan Wolverines. That's how long it's been. It's how much we got to catch up on. We've got playoffs, bowl games, Diego Pavia madness, Ben McCullum, as Hawkeyes are making waves. We got a lot to discuss on today's show. How you feeling?
I feel great, Chad. I mean, here we are a week before Christmas. This time of year flies by. I swear, the days are more like 14 hours rather than 24 hours. And before you know it, Chad, you're going to be on a plane out to Tampa. I'll be in one in Pasadena, and the football season will be over. And we're going, what happened? And then we'll start talking about schedules.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we will talk about some of those Big Ten bowl games as well. Assume we'll get to Sharon more at some point here, but I did want to start with the Hawkeyes. Hawkeye football is kind of our bread and butter, Scott. And Logan Jones keeps adding to Iowa's consensus All-American parade. It seems like there's one every year, sometimes 2. The Hawkeyes, how do they do it? They've 13 consensus All-Americans now in the last 12 seasons. Jones, this morning on this Thursday, could become a unanimous All-American if the wise football writers give him the nod, Scott, which I know you are a part of, and you already know the answer to this. I'm sure you do anyway. But anyway, he's been named first team on all the major, quote-unquote, major ones. First of all, quite an accomplishment for Logan, but I do want to get to this list here that Aiden's put up because it is an unbelievable list.
Yeah, it sure is. And Iowa has been blessed to have really good players, and a lot of them have been and most of them, if not all of them, have been fantastically developed at Iowa. I mean, when you look at a lot of them were 3-star guys, guys that people never really heard of. I mean, you take a look at, let's go back to like 17 when you had Josh Jackson. It was a 2-star wide receiver. Josie Jewell, a 2-star linebacker. Keith Duncan wasn't unanimous, but he was consensus, and it was walk on. Davion Nixon had issues, but and that's why he ended up there. You look at Tyler Linderbaum, defensive tackle. Jack Campbell had offers from Iowa State, and Minnesota. Cooper DeJean, it was between playing quarterback at South Dakota State or coming to Iowa. Tory Taylor's from Australia, and Jay Higgins, no Power 5 offers, and here we are today. Logan Jones, who will be a unanimous All-American, I think. I'll make that prediction. And he flipped positions, and he entered into that conversation. And it's a testament to the players themselves, but it's also a reflection of the program that puts them in that position to, enjoy those accolades, because without good coaching, they would not be there. And they've been developed, and they've been taught, and then they've executed, and it's really been impressive for Iowa, and it's certainly a reflection upon Kirk Ferentz, Phil Parker, George Barnett, and the entire coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's just talk about Jones for a second here. I mean, talk about just yet another one of these stories. I mean, he was a 2-year defensive lineman for the Hawkeyes, knee surgery his second year. So he's literally on another side of the ball when George Barnett is here in his first year, and then they basically toss him the ball and say, hey, you're going to start at center for 4 years. Go figure it out. And that's what he did. And I've got a story, a bigger story coming out on Bowl Week related to the offensive line, so I don't want to spoil too much. But it really, to Barnett, this is just a story that may not be repeated. The fact that a guy that took this many lumps. I mean, you think back to that 2022 season, it was ugly. I mean, you think about a guy that's just looks lost out there, and that's no offense to him. He was learning like everyone else out there. I mean, they had some rough games. I mean, think back to Illinois that year.
Oh yeah.
That was one of Jennings Dunker's worst games. I mean, it was. Bo Stevens had really rough games that year.
Had a penalty.
Yeah, right.
And in that game.
In that game, that's right. And 11 tackles for loss against the Illini. You lose 9-6. I mean, couldn't be more on the offensive line. And then the fact that you turn that around, develop, stick with it, and you're a consensus, probably unanimous All-American center, make 50 career starts. I mean, how does that happen?
Well, it's really. It's for a lot of people, they're going to look at it and say it's just yet another case of Kirk Ferentz coaching an offensive lineman to that position. But it's more than that. And really, it's a testament to everybody on the offensive line, because this is the most together offensive line since 2002. And it's in that category it might even be better, with the exception of not having a Robert Gallery type. I mean, it's really good. And I'd say Bo Stevens has a similar career arc and perseverance. Jennings Dunker has been really good. And the two younger guys who are sophomores, I think, are on that same type of path as well. But specific to Logan Jones, when I think back, and I remember talking to him when he was in Council Bluffs and before he came over, and he expected to be a defensive tackle. That's what he wanted to play. And, he was a workout warrior, he had incredible, workout numbers in the weight room, and he was fast tracked. A lot of times, like Ray Braithwaite told me, he's like, most of the time you just kind of, you have different levels, and very few of them can actually jump a level when they come right in. They'd really have to start them and then move them up. And in his case, he was so advanced that they could move him up. But you think back, as you mentioned, Chad, 2022, he had struggled with the snap. He really struggled hard with the snap, and he was thinking too much out there. And I talked to him this summer, I think, and one of the things that kind of caught my attention and has stuck with me about him is that he was like, I thought I could just walk in there and be the next Tyler Linderbaum. I thought, all right, here we go. I'm stepping in. I'm going to play well. And then it really humbled him. And then it forced him to take those steps to get better and better, to see his improvement and then continuously get better and not just go out there. And I think what we've seen from his videos, when you isolate and watch him, watch the way he finishes, watch the way he executes his blocks, he's a perfectionist. His technique is so sound, and his physicality now comes through because he can squat 700 pounds. And you see him like against Oregon, and he's taking Bryce Betcher, who's a really good linebacker, on a right 20 yards down the field. Yeah. And then finishing him after the whistle. It's just, going into the sideline. I mean, he's mean. He's just like Linderbaum that way. And he might be a little bit more athletic. So I think it's a great story. It's another feather in the cap, but he's got to be the one to do it. And by God, he did it. Yeah,
it's impressive. And so I can't remember if we shared this story or not, but out at Rutgers, Tom Kakert was on the sideline pregame. We both were, but he ran into James Ferentz was at the game. He's with the New York Giants now, and James was basically saying that we could use Logan Jones right now. He's that good, and Iowa's basically got an NFL center out there, and obviously it panned out. I mean, he was an Outland finalist, one of 3 Outland finalists. Didn't win that one, but he did win the Remington. So I mean, talk about it's kind of like, Kalen DeBoer following Nick Saban, like it's impossible, right? But he followed Tyler Linderbaum, wore his same number, and got the same award that Tyler did. So pretty amazing story. And then on top of that, Scott, Bo Stevens, a first-team AP All-American. What a story he has been. Talk about a guy that's getting, deserved honors this year. It's hard to do, especially as a second lineman from a team that went 8-4. But pretty impressive that Bo Stevens is getting these. He was first team USA Today All-American, and so he was second team Sporting News on Wednesday. So, he ended up getting honored more than Dunker, and I thought coming into the year maybe Dunker would be the most honored guy, but all three of them first team All Big Ten. But what do you think of Stevens getting kind of these national honors as well? I mean, to me, it seems like this forecast potentially that he could be a really good NFL pick here because how physical he is, how much he has developed and gotten past some of his demons early in his career. All three of these guys are going to be NFL guys for sure. But to me, I think Stevens could be the biggest riser of the three. Am I wrong?
Oh, you're correct. And I'll say this, Dunker is a guard at the next level. He's the way he's just works at Iowa as a right tackle, but he'll kick inside. And I don't mean that as a funny slide or whatever, like the NFL talk. I mean, it is legit that he's going to be there, but all three of them are NFL starters. And they're different players in some respects. I mean, you look at, Dunker's just got the wide body and the physicality that you need, and pretty athletic for the interior. Bo Stevens is a mean masher. I mean, he's as mean as any player I could remember at that position. Right up there with Sheriff as far as being just a dude that will kick your ass till your nose bleeds. And then Logan's in the same boat. I mean, Logan is the best athlete of the three, and he's as good of any athlete they've ever had on the offensive line. But Bo, he started a lot his first year. And then he got hurt and he basically missed the entire season. He was like a backup, and then he kind of worked his way back in. And, last year he really started taking off, but this year, and I think what I'm impressed with the voters for everybody but the FWA that comes out is that they looked at Bo Stevens and realized that he actually played better this year than Jennings Dunker. And I think that's really impressive because Jennings was a great player and he is a good player, but Bo was the better player this year, just a little bit. And when he and Logan take on double teams, you're moving. You can move a semi with those two. Yeah.
And when I had one of the all Big Ten ballots this year for the media, and I texted Barnett. I was like, hey, if I'm going to put one of these guys on first team, which one should I pick? He's like, I can't pick. So just so you know, I wasn't going to go with whatever he said, but I just wanted to know his opinion, obviously. Anyway, and I ended up voting Stevens as the top guard in the whole conference. And I think I can't remember I think Bo might have got first team coaches. Actually, I don't think he got the media, but I think Dunker got media. But anyway, it does show that there is that level of respect. And I thought the same, that was my evaluation of it as well. I thought he and Jones were the two guys that really made this offensive line move. Dunker was really banged up this year, more banged up than anyone realized. I'll have more on that later this month, but pretty cool story. But then the flip side is to all the comments when I tweet the All-Americans. Well, where are all the championships then? If you got all these great players, Scott.
Oh man, here we go again. Am I going to have to go on another rant?
I am teeing you up for another rant here, Scott. No, I'm not trying to, but I'm serious. Like, it's, I don't know. What do you think of
that? As I said last week, and I could kind of go into detail. I mean, Iowa is one of the best coach teams in the country. And it's obvious from when you look at the line of scrimmage, you look at the techniques, you look at every single aspect of this program. And sometimes these other teams are pretty good too. I mean, Indiana's number one in the country. Indiana won the Big Ten championship, beat Ohio State, has the Heisman Trophy winner. And Iowa lost because its quarterback got hurt. That's that's saying something there. I mean, Oregon had some injuries that really probably prevented them from maybe distancing Iowa a little bit. But you look at that throw to, from Dante Moore. That was a perfectly timed pass. They kicked a field goal to win the game at the end. You look at USC, if you're wearing a size 8.5 instead of a 10 or whatever that he's wearing, I mean, he's probably in bounds. Or if it's called in bounds, he's in bounds, and then Iowa has a chance to win the game. So it's, and then like 4 of their linemen were out in the second half. I mean,
3.
So yeah. So you look at all of those things, and it just shows you how close they were. And even when their offense was brutal, I mean, and we know it was the worst in the country, they still win 10 games. That somebody has to win those games, right? You can't go out there and say, well, we kind of suck and so do you, so nobody's going to win. No, somebody's got to go out and win, whether it's 10-7 at Wrigley Field or it's, unfortunately for Iowa, 9-6 at Illinois, which was low key one of the great defensive games of all time. When you look at who was on the field for both teams, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I understand it. But I think some fans need to start giving their team a little more credit. And really accept, they're not going to win a national title, but they were as difficult of an opponent. I mean, even like with Kirk Cignetti going through the games that they won, he always, and I've been around him now a little bit more than most. And every time he gets to the Iowa game, he's like, and they are very underrated. That's one of the most difficult environments we've ever played in. And that's one of the most difficult teams we've faced all year. And, because he kind of counts down the close games, and they're widely respected. And look at the instability around Iowa right now. New coach in Ames. What's going on with Wisconsin? Out west, they just lost baby Mahomes. And now they're starting over again, I think. But I'm sure they're going to win the offseason. But, it's just, they're the mark of stability. And this is not your typical 8-4 team like last year was. This is, or 2022. This is a team that, with a little bit different schedule, I don't know if it would have been in the playoff, but it certainly would have been a top 15 ranking.
Well, on Wednesday, as I always do, I strolled into GameDay Men's Health to get for my weekly visit, my weekly tee shot. I strolled out with a fresh injection of testosterone. Just my weekly maintenance with GameDay Men's Health. It has become a lifestyle, honestly. GameDay Men's Health is one of the blessings that I'm thankful for this Christmas season. They continue to dial me in with their testosterone replacement therapy, and they've helped a lot of men out there listening to this right now. I know that. That it helps you become a better person, honestly, a better husband, a better athlete, a healthier human. There's really no downside, lots of upside, because GameDay Men's Health can truly help you feel like you're in your 20s again. And I'm going to be 52 in January. But I feel great. I feel awesome. I continue to recommend it to friends who reach out. I can think of 2 men in my life that I was urging to try out GameDay Men's Health just this week. Haven't heard if they're doing it, but I know they're thinking about it. GameDay Men's Health, I found out on Wednesday, open Christmas Eve as well. They are totally full service, user friendly, and if you can't make it in, they'll hook you up with to-go shots. They're absolutely the best. So get connected with GameDay Men's Health. Free, private, no obligation consultation at GameDayMen'sHealth.com, or stop by one of their locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, North Liberty, and now Naperville, Illinois.
What a perfect opportunity, too, as we get closer to New Year's resolution season. It's only a couple weeks away, 2 weeks away from offering up your resolutions. This is one way to help you out, to get going on those. And then also have something that can really get you invigorated about working out, and you'll see the results in a very short period of time. And I just had like a full doctor visit this week, and happily down 60 pounds from when I started. And GameDay Men's Health really helped me put in that position to where, hey, I can go out and unfortunately clear the sidewalks and then the driveways and not be tired anymore. So that's a really good spot to go.
So, Consensus All-American, can the ride continue next year? I've got to think Zach Lutmers he's my favorite next year for 2026 Hawkeye Consensus All-American. But when you look at this list, a lot of these guys on here, like, they would surprise you. You know, you never would have expected a Josh Jackson necessarily.
No.
You wouldn't have expected a Davion Nixon. Probably not a Keith Duncan. Not from the year before, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You know, and just keep going. Caleb Johnson, you never would have predicted that.
Oh, no.
I mean, you just think about that. And even, you know, I don't know. I guess maybe DeJean and Linderbaum and some of those guys might have been Campbell. Maybe you could have expected. But who do you think, you know, is it Lutmer next year? Is that the guy you would pick?
I would pick him second. I think first for me would be Cade Pieper. He's one of the best. PFF had him a first-team All-American guard, and he's just about in that category with all the others right now. I mean, he is probably as athletic as Logan Jones, as physical as any of the guys there. Maybe not quite as big yet, but he's getting close. So I would probably put him in that category. I wouldn't shy away from Trevor Lauk either. He had a great first season as a left tackle. I think PFF has him as the highest grade Iowa player at that position. So I think he's in that category. It's hard on defense. I mean, Zach Lutmer is the one that comes to mind because he had a terrific year, and I think he was probably a little undervalued. I don't know about All-American undervalued, but maybe even in the all Big Ten teams. I thought he was at least a second team type Big Ten player, and there were some great ones. I mean, there was two safeties were first team All-American, will be unanimous, and Bishop Fitzgerald from USC and Caleb Downs from Ohio State. So, but I would probably go Pieper, Lutmer, and Lauk as my three that I think have a chance. And I think Iowa has a really strong opportunity to get a freshman first team All-American and DJ Voname. I think I pronounced that right. Somebody pointed it out to me. I want to make sure I'm right on that. But anyway, the way he came on late, I think he's going to be the first team All-American freshman. Wow.
Pretty good stuff. And then, Iowa football, I know we talked a lot about All-American and honors and all that stuff, but there's a pretty exciting game coming up, just a little housekeeping. So today is December 18th, and our next show will air December 27th. So that'll be our bowl preview. We're going to record that either that morning or the night before, get you guys set for the ReliaQuest Bowl. And Scott, this is going to be a pretty interesting game, especially with what happened surrounding the Heisman Trophy ceremony with Vanderbilt's quarterback. What do you have to say about Diego Pavia and the Hawkeyes going against this guy who certainly does not like Indiana?
Well, I tell you what, since we're going to talk about Diego Pavia, it would only be right if I popped on an Easy Eddie right now and have a sip for it. Because when you're talking about holiday season, you get yourself an Easy Eddie from Big Grove and go to the Big Grove or go to the grocery store to pick one up, because there is an awesome patio and it's starting to warm up. The snow's starting to melt. Maybe you'll be able to sit out in it, but there are great locations throughout Iowa: Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Des Moines, and the original in Solon. The food is great. The beers, including the Easy Eddie, and I usually like the 1939, but I decided to go with the tall boy here in Easy Eddie. The Citrus Surfer, the neighborhood beer, all of them are fantastic. So when I'm talking about Diego Pavia and what is going to happen in Tampa, where you're going to be at, Chad, I've got to reach for an Easy Eddie and have a big old-fashioned sip.
Well, it's going to be interesting. He's certainly coming into this game with a little chip on his shoulder. That's kind of what I was alluding to. After not winning the Heisman, he finished second. I think I can say now I did vote for him. He was my number one choice. I had Mendoza 2. What's that?
He was, huh?
Yeah. I put him 1, and Mendoza 2. I just think he carried that team. I mean, plain and simple. Without him, they're not a borderline playoff team. His numbers are fantastic. The competition he did it against, really impressive. And Iowa's going to have its hands full with this one. Do you think that the Heisman snub? So I think Iowa's chances would have been better if he won the Heisman. But now that he's been snubbed, I feel like that works against the Hawkeyes.
It depends on the motivation. I don't know what it means as far as, is he going to go out to try to have to prove himself one more time? Or maybe Iowa will feel the opposite and say, hey, the way this guy's been acting, that we got to prove ourselves, because he's going to go out here and do it. I mean, there's a couple things in play, and I voted him second. I voted Mendoza first, and then Jeremiah Love third from Notre Dame. But Pavia, 3,200 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, 71% completion percentage. Plus he ran for, 826 yards and 9 more scores. But it's more than just the numbers with him. I mean, he's got, he's 5'10", even though they list him as 6 foot, and he's got that chip on his shoulder, and this whole team, he just drags his whole team into this game, and with sheer will, and he's going to be a tough matchup just to really stop, because of all that energy that he has and ability. But he is a very controversial figure, and I think it's kind of funny we were seeing I call it a bromance brewing between Iowa and Indiana fans over this, because, going to a club and having a F Indiana sign, and he's throwing up his middle fingers at it right after the ceremony, and then going on Instagram and F the voters. He's saying F to you, and you live in Iowa and you voted for him. I voted for him second. I mean, he got second in the Heisman. I mean, come on. It's not like we ignored him. Yeah. But to do all that, and of course some of his prior antics, like at New Mexico State, when a video of him leaking on their their locker room rug or whatever, and Logan, so he's the type of guy that if he's on your team, you'd totally dig him. He's like a Ferrari brother or something, but if he's Brad not on Davidson. Your team, oh no, he's like a wrestler. Okay. He's in that category. But I don't know. How do you think Iowa handles them? Because I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this 8-4 season, I feel like Iowa's done pretty well against the younger quarterbacks. But they're all right against Mendoza. Moore was a different situation because they just couldn't stop the run, and it was raining, so you can't really put those passing numbers into super context. But that USC threw the ball on them granted, the throws were tough. That Maeva made. Rocco Becht had a decent day against Iowa, but not great. So I don't know. It's like, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what to expect. That's what's kind of fun about this matchup. I mean, Iowa's a 5.5-point underdog. I like Iowa to cover right now, just in my head, just because I think it's going to be a close game. I mean, they haven't lost a game by more than 5 points in, I guess, since the Michigan State game last year. So, they're used to staying close. But big picture, Scott, what do you think kind of this game, a win versus a loss, how do you think this game sort of frames this season for Iowa?
Oh, that's a great question, because, I mean, we could say all we want about this team being better than its predecessors, and it's not the same old 8-4 team. But if Iowa goes out and loses and they're 8-5, and they still, then it'd be 14 straight losses to ranked opponents, then the rhetoric doesn't matter. It's the results. And you could be the most together 8-4 great team, but if you lose, you're not going to end up ranked, and you're going to end up just kind of the same. And it even though you're not necessarily mediocre in the way you played, that's the way you're going to be viewed. And in this sport, perception is reality, so you got to be willing to accept it. And likewise, I think Vanderbilt is looking to cap its already best season with, hey, we're going to beat a Big Ten team on the way out, and in a better bowl than they've ever had. So I think this is, I think one thing that makes this, to me, the best bowl game outside the playoff is that you've got two programs very vested in wanting to have a win at the end of the season. And I think, Pavia is obviously, and if he's going to play in a game, he's going to be out there, throwing it all around and doing whatever he's got to do. And I think Iowa's in the same boat, because we're overlooking the career arc of Mark Gronowski. I mean, he's one rushing touchdown away from tying the Big Ten record by quarterbacks. Nobody's ever, had Denard Robinson have 16. He has 15. The winningest quarterback in college football history. So, Vanderbilt, for all of its offensive success, and it's number one in yards per play, and it's averages almost 40 points a game, is not that proficient on defense, and Iowa can hammer at them that way. So it's a great matchup. And I'm glad it's kind of the curtain raiser to the entire day, because then you wind up with the Cotton Bowl with Ohio State versus either A&M or Miami.
Yeah, wow, that's going to be pretty fun. Well, it is an upside dawn night for me, or day, with Athletic Brewing. You can drink these day or night. Athletic Brewing is a fabulous sponsor of Legends and Listeners. They are America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer. And I continue to be very thrilled that they are aboard and joining us and helping us bring you Legends and Listeners every week. Upside Dawn is refreshing, clean, golden ale with citrus aromas. I love citrus aromas in my beers back when I was drinking. Now I don't. No need to wait for your resolutions. Scott mentioned it earlier with Game Day. You can start right now, or if you do want to wait, January 1st is coming, so you can at least stock up on your Athletic Brewing. We know you can at least do a dry January, right? Athletic Brewing is fit for all times. You can visit their wide variety of products at athleticbrewing.com. Upside Dawn. This is the one I had in Nashville last year for the first time, and loved it. I thought it was an IPA at first. Like when I asked for an IPA, and he gave this to me, and it wasn't, but it tastes great. So right up my alley. Love it. Going down easy as we do this one. Easy Eddie for you, going down easy for me. What do you want to talk about next? We got some interesting departures at Michigan and Nebraska. What's striking your fancy to talk about before we get into some of these Big Ten Bowl games? Yeah,
let's look at Nebraska right now. I mean, with their version of Pat Mahomes, Dylan Raiola has decided to enter the transfer portal, and this is something that I think we could have predicted at some point. And it's always interesting to me when a fan base just totally embraces a player and then instantly wants to cast them aside. And there's been a lot of receipts out there, and I've kind of cracked up watching people who said, there was one, and I'll give this Husker fan some credit because he owned it immediately, but it was like, can we finally admit this was kind of creepy? And it was like a GIF or whatever of his Patrick Mahomes jumping and everything like that. And it's like, all of a sudden it was a feeding frenzy of, you didn't say it then, and it was hilarious to look at. And he's like, okay, I know, but, I think this is, when you look at Nebraska right now, I mean, they're in a transition without being in a transition. I mean, year 3 of the Matt Rule era was supposed to put them 9 wins, supposed to put them in competition for the playoff, kind of in, and instead they didn't beat anybody of value except Cincinnati, and that was in the opener, and Cincinnati wasn't all that great anyway. And they, they just treaded water. They got blown out at the end by Penn State and Iowa.
And Minnesota earlier.
And Minnesota, they gave up 9 sacks at Minnesota. And so when you look at that, and now their prized 5-star quarterback that was going to lead them to the glory days again is transferring out, and their All-American caliber running back is going to head off to the NFL. They're back to the portal, and I'm sure glory days will be here again. But really, you've got to really be careful here. I mean, because they're not that far removed from being less than 0. I mean, for being a non-bowl team, and I think that's kind of a scary proposition for the Huskers right now, that they've got to be careful, and they've got they fired their defensive coordinator,
right?
He's, so they're they fired last year. They fired the offensive coordinator. So, went with Dana Holgerson, who was supposed to lead them to the promised land. So I think at some point they got to quit thinking about the promised land and start worrying about getting on the path to the promised land.
Well, and when we get to talk about some of these Big Ten Bowl games, the Huskers are 16.5-point underdogs to Utah in the Las Vegas, or not the Las Vegas Bowl. Las Vegas Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And Emmett Johnson isn't playing. So,
Yeah, right.
Kyle
Whittingham's last game too.
Yeah, this is like the perfect, imperfect storm for the Huskers. TJ Lateef going in up against Kyle Whittingham. Iowa had its day with Lateef. He gets a month to prepare. But anyway, it is kind of funny that, I mean, not funny, but like it's amusing that, they lock up Rule with an extension mid-season. Turns out Penn State didn't want him, and it's not even like it was touted as, okay, here's our stability, and now it's like there's no stability because you lose your quarterback. I mean, honestly, like, was the offense really that good, or was it just Emmett Johnson? For me, it was just Emmett Johnson for the most part. Their offensive line stunk.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. He led the country, I think, in percentage yards gained by any player on a team. He was like 41% or something like that of all their yards gained. I mean, Jeremiah Love was second at Notre Dame. And he was a fantastic player, no question about it.
Oh, he was great. Yeah, he was amazing.
And he'll be a great pro too. I mean, I like him a lot. I think he could be Matt Forte-ish in some respects. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what else do you have? What's your identity? I don't know what their identity is. What are they trying to be? What are they hanging their hat on? There's nothing. And I mean, Utah is going to be very motivated to win that game. Again, they're 10-2. They have Kyle Whittingham's final game, and Kyle Whittingham and Kirk Ferentz to me are pretty similar in career arcs. He took them from the Mountain West to the Pac-12 to the Big 12, and they've been in Rose Bowls. They've had a lot of success. And so he means a lot to that program. And they're going to be, committed to winning. And I'm looking at Nebraska going, what are you committed to? Are you committed to being a tough defense? Are you committed to be a running ground and pound offense? Or what do you want to do? And I can't figure them out. So, and then having, Dylan Raiola leave, in some ways it's an opportunity. Now they could just say, we're going to start fresh. We're going to figure out how we're going to go about things. But in the same respect, he has an amazing talent, and he's going to go somewhere like Jeff Brom at Louisville or Lane Kiffin at LSU, and he's going to be great, and they're going to really regret it.
Yeah. Are the Athletic, or your buddies at the Athletic, do they have any speculation where he ends up?
Not yet so much, but
okay.
But there is some talk though that he'll end up at Louisville with Jeff Brom, which I think would be, and that'd be a great fit. I like Jeff Brom. I like the way he plays, and if that's the case, man, they could be something special.
Huskers do have a tough schedule next year. They had an easy one this year, relatively speaking. Next year they got at Illinois. They're at Iowa, of course. They also are at Oregon. Also get Ohio State at home and Indiana at home, and Washington at home. So it's quite a slate. And the non-con is nothing, so they'll get their wins. But also at Michigan State, at Rutgers. So home against Maryland, they'll win that one probably. But anyway, not easy next year. Not easy next year for them. In year 4, and they're going to end up 7-6 this year, barring a stunner in Vegas, which is a pretty big disappointment. Speaking of disappointments, the Michigan Wolverines, now maybe this will end up great for them. Maybe they'll get a better coach, but what a stunner with the Sharon Moore fallout. Wow, I mean, that just escalated quickly, or de-escalated, I guess, quickly. What do you make of all this stuff now, and who do you think the next coach will be at Michigan, Scott?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, honestly, this is one of the more sad situations when you think of how his whole life imploded and the things that he valued and what he chose to do, and how, I mean, he's arrested for stalking, for breaking and entering, in a felony. He was in jail, and, not only did he lose his career, but, he's got a wife and kids, and it's really a sad ordeal, I think, there. But I mean, I looked at what was going on with Michigan as next year was going to be kind of blank or get off the pot for them anyway, because, they had fool's gold this year as far as their record goes. They were 9-3, but they were not if they played Iowa wins by 2 touchdowns. I have no doubt in my mind. If they play Illinois, they lose. Because they lose. All 3 of their losses were by double digits, and Oklahoma, USC, and Ohio State. So I think they would have been in that category. But Jed Fish is probably the one that comes to mind first. The Washington coach. He's got experience. He was at Ann Arbor, but kind of like in a different way than Nebraska. I think they need a truly fresh start, and it might go as far deep as the athletic director too, because if you look at all the scandals that they've been through in the last 4 to 5 years, it really is getting deep. Connor Stallions to coach taping girls, and you have this, and you have Harbaugh's issues, and they're on probation, and they owe $30 million, because of all the transgressions, on and on. It's so deep that they probably do need, if not somebody completely outside the Michigan family, they need somebody who can bring in a different type of culture to do that. And it's really disappointing. So I guess, for a school that's as arrogant in somewhat of a self-righteous way, I think Michigan could use a reboot to kind of live up to their lofty ideals. So Jed Fish would be my guy.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard, obviously Kalen DeBoer, speculation, the Alabama, you don't think so? Alabama, Oklahoma game has a little intrigue with that.
Yeah.
Kenny Dillingham, maybe Arizona State. Those are other names I've heard. I don't know anything. I'm just throwing out names, but
yeah. DeBoer said he's staying, so that one's out. So, but Dillingham is kind of sitting there with, possible extension, but it's and he'd be really good, but can he be good at Michigan? That's remains to be seen. Here's one thing that Indiana figured out that other schools didn't, is that for whatever reason, schools try to just win the name game and the press conference so badly that they don't pay attention to who's going to be a good coach for us. Indiana took a risk. They hired a 62-year-old guy who'd never coached, as a head coach, Power 5 competition. And he completely changed the game for Indiana. In a way that we could never have predicted. You look at Ohio State 25 years ago or whatever, when they hired Jim Tressel, he was at Youngstown State, and they brought in the Youngstown State coach to lead the Ohio State University, and he takes them to a national title and 2 other appearances. Maybe you need to think a little differently here. Maybe it's somebody like Jeff Monken from Army, who's, yes, he doesn't have like a national title at Army or anything, but a great leader, a respected guy, and somebody that if he goes to a place like Michigan, he's not going to run the wing T, So, that might be the thought I would have on Michigan.
Well, a lot of playoff games coming up, Scott. Michigan's a 7.5 point underdog against Texas. We said Iowa's a 5.5 point underdog against Vandy. You can go bet on these games right now at Circa Sports. They have a promotion going on now called Win Derek's Wallet. There's the banner there that Aiden put up. You can win $100,000, a share of the $100,000 prize pool from Derek's Wallet. All you have to do is bet $100 during the prize period, which is going on now, December 13th through the 22nd. So you got to get those bets in soon. You can get a second share by betting $500, and that, honestly, that goes quickly if you're a regular bettor. The promotions end, the shares will be divided evenly and placed into your account. That's simple. So it's basically free money if you bet that money, and then hey, go win some money. Bet on anything in Iowa, from pro sports to college sports, straight bets, parlays, props, and futures. It all counts towards your total. You have to do it in Iowa though. Check out their all new refurbished app, circasports.com, and then circasports.com/winderek's. cash for that promotion. So win Derek's wallet.
Chad, this is in about a week and a half. It's going to be the 50th anniversary of the original Hail Mary game between Dallas and Minnesota with Roger Staubach at the old Met. Wow. So it's kind of a signature moment in NFL history. And if you've ever been stuck calling a plumber with a last second, please fix this Hail Mary, that's not fun. But Acriman Plumbing's Total Care Club keeps you out of those desperation plays. Pay annually, stay ahead of issues, and keep your money running from a trick play down the drain. So call Acriman if you have any of those issues with your drain, with your toilet this holiday season. And a couple of things we want to point out about them is they are in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will be answered in a timely manner. And they're growing, so if you know of somebody who's interested in being a service tech, reach out to Acriman Plumbing. And so visit acriman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Well, I have to say the pressure is on Acriman because I talked my dad into calling him. He's got a leak in the upstairs bathroom. And he's got the plumber he's used his whole life. I said, hey, give Acriman a call. We've heard great things about him. So this will be, I know you've already had a great experience with him, Scott. So I recommended him. They're coming out to the house Friday. So Acriman, if you're listening, take care of my dad. Make sure you do a good job out there, and I'll report back when my dad tells me how it went. So this is a lot of pressure. I mean, if a sponsor botches it, I'm gonna have to tell it like it is, like a reporter. So let's get it done, Acriman. So the playoffs start here soon. Friday. Yeah, Friday, Scott. We got one Big Ten team in it in the first part of it anyway, Oregon. They're favored by 21 against JMU, and I think Oregon covers that, to be honest with you, unless they just take their foot off the gas like super early. But that's not Dan Lanning's style. Mm-hmm. I think 21 is way too low. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just not giving James Madison any credit, but that is Saturday evening. I will not be watching that. I'll be at the Iowa basketball game, and then I'll be turning my attention to the Bears, so I will not see one snap of Oregon's JMU. But there are some other good games this weekend, Scott. Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas A&M, Miami in particular.
Yeah, I think, Oklahoma, Alabama is one of those things that, two blue blood programs playing on Friday night, I think is a really fascinating matchup. Unfortunately, they've already played. Oklahoma won. And then the winner gets Indiana at the Rose Bowl. And stop myself here. And if you've heard this before, Chad, 2 years ago, if somebody would have said Indiana is going to play the winner of Oklahoma and Alabama in the Rose Bowl, and Indiana would be an obvious favorite, probably by 7.5 or 8 points.
Yeah.
We would have been like, where are you coming from? What are we doing? And instead, no, it's true. It's real life. I mean, Indiana has the better roster than both of those teams. Indiana is so complete in every single area with the Heisman Trophy winner. It's just remarkable right now. And, Alabama can't run at all on offense. They have no running game. They have
Caden Proctor.
They have Caden Proctor. Maybe he'll catch a pass or something like that. But and then Oklahoma has some decent defenders if they play in it, and so that's going to be a really interesting game. I think a matchup, and then ESPN, because the NFL decides that here's what the NFL is to me on this day and on Black Friday. It's like. There went like when you were in college and you went out to the bars with like a dude that your friend who is like the best looking guy in the whole place, and you knew it, and then you're talking to a girl who you kind of like, and you just you're trying to get somewhere, and next thing you know, he just slides in and takes over, and it's like, GD, what are you doing, man? You can have any person here, yet you chose this person. Well, that's the way the NFL is.
Yeah.
And when you look at Black Friday, that's a college day. No, we're going to put a game right in the middle of Black Friday, and then
Bears Eagles. God,
Bears
that
Eagles
annoyed me so much.
Right. And right after Iowa, Nebraska, and I was driving, listening to it. And then this weekend, we're going to kick off the college football weekend. No, we're going to play 2 games, including Bears Packers, which is now, which is a big game. I mean, normally it's just a, rivalry game, but now it's, really important for the NFC. And it's like, do you really have to do this? But yes, we do, because we're the NFL, and that's the way they are right now. But that being said, that's why ESPN, which subleases 2 of the games to TNT, decided we're going to go Friday night and early Saturday, so then the TNT games get stuck. Against the NFL, and they just so happen to be kind of rough games. I mean, when you look at Ole Miss and Tulane and James Madison, Oregon. I do think James Madison's better than Tulane, frankly. And they have some explosive players on offense, and they're not that bad. But I think going to Oregon is a bad matchup for them. And I think Oregon wins. I'm more anxious about Oregon versus Texas Tech. I think that is as good of a matchup as you'll find in the next round.
That'll be fun. And you are going to the Rose Bowl, so that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can preview that game when we talk on the 27th. That's going to be a ton of fun. And then, like you said, Ohio State will get A&M or Miami, right, in the Cotton Bowl.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think Oklahoma is going to get it done. I do. They've got the better defense. They're at home. And then I'm going to go Miami in the other game. Miami's a 3.5-point underdog, but I don't know. Like A&M really didn't play anybody that great this year. I guess they played Notre Dame, beat them. They're not even a playoff team, but I'm just kidding.
Both teams beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I think Miami's going to come in with a little chip on his shoulder. That's all I'm saying. Just, want to prove itself a little bit. And they really did kind of come on at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to go Miami and Oklahoma.
I'm going Miami, and I'm going to go Alabama on the road. Even though they're on the road, they lost the first game to Oklahoma. So, at home. So, everything's lined up for Oklahoma to win the rematch again, but I don't know. I think Ty Simpson's a good quarterback. I think he's got an opportunity there, and maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I'd like to see Alabama play Indiana. I think that would be an interesting matchup. Cignetti coach there. He coached Julio Jones. He was his position coach there, and plus, give me an opportunity to talk to Caden Proctor, which I haven't done since he was 17, 18 years old. So.
Yeah, I remember talking to him at Carver Hawkeye Arena when he was briefly a Hawkeye.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, me too.
Got Iowa in trouble.
I talked to him when he was like 16 years old, right after COVID, at a spring practice at Kinnick. So, he was big then too.
Well, yeah. I hope that would be a fun matchup. What other Big Ten Bowl games excite you, Scott, other than Iowa Vandy? We'll talk about Iowa Vandy at length on our next show. Yeah. But what else you looking at here?
Yeah, I think the true helmet matchup is Michigan and Texas, and all the upheaval going on in Ann Arbor makes you wonder what really is going to happen in this game. Mm-hmm. I mean, because at first I'm thinking, Biff Poggi, he was the right guy to lead them at the moment. But, when you have Bryce Underwood as Michigan's quarterback, and then you have, Arch Manning for Texas, I mean, those are 2 guys that really I think people will be excited to watch. And so I wonder how that one's going to go. But I would probably bet on Texas at this point, just because of all the craziness for Michigan. But another one that I think is sneaky, low key, and really good is Illinois and Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. You've got two pretty decent quarterbacks. Tennessee has got a tremendous offense, but Illinois isn't that bad either. And I could see a ton of points. I could see this ending up a lot like when Tennessee played Purdue a few years ago when Jeff Brom was still the coach. It was like 47-44 or something like that. I could see it high scoring. And then finally, if somebody would have told me that Clemson was playing Penn State in the postseason, I would not have guessed the Pinstripe Bowl earlier, probably because I had it in the national title game. But nevertheless, they're playing in New York. But still, I think that's interesting just for the symbolism of it.
Yeah, those spreads are tight. Clemson -3 against Penn State. That'll be a fun game. Illinois is underdog by 2.5. USC also in the Alamo Bowl against TCU. They're a Big Ten team, favored by 3.5 in that ball game. So a lot of tight spreads if you have the Big Ten rooting interest. Minnesota's a tight spread as well in the Rate Bowl. 2.5 over Mexico. 2.5 over on December 26th. So that's coming up soon.
Yeah, and that should have actually been Iowa State. That's what it was going to be.
It's too bad.
And
that would have been fun.
They were so excited for that game. I mean, I've talked to the people at the Rate Bowl. They wanted Iowa State in the worst way. And they thought, if you get a regional game, Minnesota versus Iowa State, because they were contemplating Northwestern because Northwestern beat Minnesota. But they're like, man, Minnesota, Iowa State, it just seems like it'd be a perfect matchup. And so they were pretty excited about that. But then ultimately it didn't materialize. But still, I like the fighting flex on that one, and I like Northwestern against Joey Labus and in Central Michigan.
Oh yeah, there you go. Is that the Detroit Bowl? Is that the Detroit game?
Yeah, the game above bowl, and and then now Mekhi Lemon declared for the NFL draft, so that probably takes a big time weapon away from SC, but I still like them over TCU. They're pretty explosive. Lincoln Riley and his old stomping grounds of the Big 12 country.
Well, one of our probably my favorite all-time Christmas movie is Christmas Vacation, and it is the Christmas Vacation game on Saturday, December 27th. So you can get ready for that. The Iowa Wild hosting the Chicago Wolves, 6:00 that night. It is Christmas Vacation night. Everybody gets their holiday bonus, not the Jelly of the Month Club at the Iowa Wild game on the 27th. Christmas Vacation T-shirt to the first 1,500 fans. 2-for-1 Confluence beers, which ends at puck drop. So get those pregame. It's part of the and then Coca-Cola local concert series is part of the festivities as well. Brian Thompson and band performing there. So the Christmas Vacation game. I've never heard of that promotion, but I love it. We can quote, my wife and I quote that movie constantly. Like, it's crazy how many quotes we have in our life that come from that movie. You serious, Clark? You can just go down the line. Almost every scene has like a quotable line that we use in our house all year round.
I feel like
keeps on giving the whole year.
I feel like I missed an opportunity with the Acriman here on the Chitter's Full Clark.
Yes, come on.
I missed an opportunity there, but no. Overall, I love that promotion. I'm glad that minor league hockey does as good a job as any of doing things like this, and this sounds like a great game to go to, because I love the whole Christmas Vacation series too. That and A Christmas Story, they're both awesome.
Well, we did want to, before we left, we didn't get to talk about Iowa State men's basketball, which occurred last Thursday night in Ames. I was over there. Hawkeyes fall 66-62. But, Ben McCollum has really kind of made some waves here. I think the way he is approaching these losses, that ended up being my column out of the game, that he was like, I don't care that we stayed close. I want to win. And it's really, someone in my text group pointed this out. We talked about this in our Hawk Central show a little bit too, but a different audience here. But that's kind of how Hayden Fry was in his very first loss to Oklahoma way back when. He's like, why do you guys want to give us credit for staying close to Oklahoma? Like, we didn't win the game. you know,
Right.
and McCollum is just wired that way. You know, everybody has their own style, but I think it's really coming across well from what I have, seen. You know, that's because I think a lot of people would have said, you know, you go into Ames and play the way you did for most of that game, other than the start of the second half, and really outplayed Iowa State, maybe one of the best teams in the country for the majority of that game, or at least the early part of that game for sure.
Yeah.
And, that really didn't want to have any of it as far as like staying close. And Bennett Sturtz, same thing. You know, he told me, yeah, I've only lost 14 games in my 3.5 years in college, so I don't really like this.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see, how this team performs in a very very tough at the top Big Ten. We've seen them already go down hard to Michigan State. But what do you kind of make of the McCollum kind of bravado, I guess you could call it? I don't think he comes across that way, like cocky, but he also is very no nonsense in terms of what he demands and what he thinks can be at Iowa.
You never want a coach to accept a moral victory, and it's tremendous that he didn't. We, media, fans can think whatever they want to think, which is, wow, you went to Hilton, a place where Iowa's dreams go to die every year in basketball, and you stayed close with them. You had an opportunity at the end to compete, to win. If it wasn't for the first block of minutes, before the first media timeouts of the second half, they were the better team largely for most of that game. That doesn't matter. I mean, the win's the win. But I think in his case, that's what you want to see. They're not satisfied. Nobody's satisfied about losing a game. We can all be impressed with how they performed in a tough environment against a great team, but he's not. And I think that's exactly what you want. And I think we've seen enough of this team to know that they're playing outstanding defense. I mean, this was the type of game I think on our little chat we've had it that, Iowa would have lost this game by 20 points had Fran McCaffrey been the head coach, because their defense could not have handled Iowa State at all. And their offense probably would have scored more points, but it would have been in the neighborhood of 94-72 or something like that. This situation, to be able to compete possession by possession, I still think they've got work to do offensively. I think that Bennett Sturtz, and I'm almost wondering, does he need to have a little bit more of a breather? Because there were times when he wasn't involved offensively. And I'm like, you need to be involved offensively. And if you're not involved offensively, you need to have somebody else in there who is. And I think that for too many stretches, it was just kind of like he was not involved. And I think but I could see that, Fulgaris is good at times, but he needs to be more assertive and he needs to be more, in tune. But overall, I like the direction of this program. I think it's a good team now. I think in 2 months, it could be a very, very good team.
Well, obviously, we've been talking about the Bucknell game. Hopefully we gave those tickets away, Aiden, on the 12th. We've been promoting that for a while. We did, right? I hope. The Hawks have 2 non-conference games. They're going to be easy wins, Bucknell and UMass Lowell here in the next 10, 12 days. But then Big Ten play starts. And the Hawkeyes right now, Scott, are number 20 in KenPom. And that does mean a lot. They haven't been this high in years. They actually moved up from 32 before the Iowa State. So they moved up some spots, blew out Western Michigan. They're up to number 20 in KenPom. They have a top 30 adjusted offense, top 30 adjusted defense. It's early, but it's like you said, you can see this team. You can see that it's going to get better. They're really well coached. I made this analogy in one of the shows. I can't remember which one, but I feel this is my prediction with this team. I feel like Iowa football, they're very well coached. And so I think they're going to beat most of the teams they should beat. And I think they could still struggle with some of those elite teams because they just, like you said, they don't have, the firepower, the horses. So I kind of think that, and that's kind of a good recipe to get into the tournament. If you can just take care of your business, win your Big Ten home games. Right now, Ken Palms projects Iowa to go 12-8 in Big Ten play. That would easily get them into the NCAA tournament without question. Obviously Ken Palm thinks highly of the Hawks. They would have to kind of fulfill that. But I mean, to be the 20th team right now in that tells you that this is a solidly in the tournament team. We'll see. A long, long way to go. But I do feel like before the season, I was thinking, I think this team can maybe make the tournament. Now I feel like this is definitely a tournament team unless they blow it.
Yeah, and when they come back off the break, off Christmas, I mean, they've got some challenging games at home, but they're opportunities as well. You play UCLA right out the gate after the new year. You go to Minnesota, which I think should be a win, even though it's on the road. And then you play Illinois at home. You go to Purdue, and then you go to Indiana. And I think that's, kind of an interesting 5-game stretch there where if you're Ben McCollum, you look at, we're going to win all of them. If you're looking at it from a 20,000-foot view, which we're going to do, you look at it as saying, if you go 3-2 in that stretch, that's pretty good. I mean, going to Mackey, going to Assembly Hall, playing Illinois at home, which I think Illinois is a pretty good team, but you don't ever want to surrender to Illinois, ever. If you're Iowa men's basketball, that's not a team that you feel good about losing to ever. So don't. You already lost to Iowa State. Don't lose to your other rival. So I think if Iowa can somehow figure out a way to have a winning record in that 5-game stretch, I think you look at this team and go, okay, I think it's got a chance. And what you want to do, like Iowa football, but it's a different sport, build towards March. If you can get better as the season progresses and you get to a point where you're in March and, okay, you're 12-8 in the Big Ten, but you are playing better basketball. And maybe you get to Saturday at the Big Ten tournament. And then, boom, you're ripe and ready for the NCAA tournament. And really it's about draw and how you play. And, and Iowa just, they had teams that were capable of advancing to the second weekend under Fran. They just didn't play enough defense to get there. This team does. So I think this team's got a chance to have a very strong season.
Yeah, like you said, I think 3-2 would be, to me, it would be great in that 5-game stretch, because then you get Rutgers at home, USC at home, at Oregon, at Washington, then you come home to against Northwestern, then you're at Maryland, Purdue at home. I mean, you could reel off some wins there if you can get through this early stretch, but you don't want to go like 1-4 out of the gate in the Big Ten. So, which is very doable. I mean, very plausible if you're not on your P's and Q's. So these next 2 games, little tune-up games for Big Ten play, and then we go. And the Iowa women, they're in the big stuff now. They got UConn on Saturday, 12:30 on Fox. If you want to tune into that. Maybe you don't. I don't know. That's going to be, they're going to blow out every team they play. So you just want Iowa. That's one where you can maybe get a moral victory if you're within 15 or something. But after that, then it's Big Ten play for the Hawks on the women's side as well. So it's that basketball stuff's coming, Scott. So are bowl games. So are the playoffs. Tons to talk about here on Legends and Listeners. Look forward to chatting with you next time. I'll be in Tampa next time we talk.
You'll be in Florida. I'll be ready to hit the road to Pasadena. So I think we'll be excited for our playoffs. Yeah,
I'm jealous you get to go to a Rose Bowl again. That was fun despite the game last time.
Yeah,
way back when. Enjoy that.
I've been to 2 blowouts, but I went out there. So.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you, like we said, on the 27th. As always, Scott Dochterman, Chad Leistikow, Channel Seed Studios, Iowa Everywhere.